Have you ever felt that the more open you are with your family, the more complicated things become? You begin by wanting to be honest, to stay close, to build trust, but somehow, instead of feeling more at peace, you feel more unsettled. Many people come to realize this in their later years, especially after 65. And it's not because our families don't love us. They do. But love is layered. It comes with expectations, opinions, emotions. And when you lay everything bare, you sometimes get responses you didn't see coming. I used to believe that total honesty was the key to closeness. I thought if I shared everything, it would show my family how much I trusted them. But with time, I learned something subtle yet powerful. Not every truth needs to be shared. Not because it's wrong, but because peace becomes more valuable as you get older. And after all you've endured, you've earned that peace. So today, I just want to talk, not lecture, about 5 things I've discovered are best kept to yourself after 65. Not out of secrecy, but out of wisdom. If you've ever felt emotionally exhausted after a conversation or regretted opening up too much, this message might resonate with you. And if you're new here, welcome. This is a thoughtful, respectful space for people in their later years who want to live with strength, serenity, and dignity. Let's begin. The first thing I've learned to keep private is your full financial picture. That might seem surprising. After all, we've been told that transparency prevents problems. We think, if I tell them exactly what I have, how I've planned, and what I intend to do with my money, it will make things easier later. I used to believe that too. But here's something people don't often say. When you share everything about your finances, the dynamics can change. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. Let me share Martin's story. He's 81, a retired engineer, thoughtful and careful with money. Wanting to be responsible, he sat down with his 2 adult sons and laid it all out. Bank accounts, pension, home ownership, estate plans. He even brought spreadsheets. He thought they'd feel reassured, maybe even proud. Instead, the questions started. Dad, why are you still living in that big house? Shouldn't you be thinking about assisted living? What's your backup plan if you need long-term care? One of his sons even offered to move in, just to help manage things. They meant well. They were concerned. But over time, Martin felt something shift, as if his choices now required their approval, as if his independence was slowly slipping away. And it didn't stop with the big things. Every small purchase, a vacation, a chair, even a new pair of shoes, became a topic of discussion. What hurt Martin most wasn't that his sons didn't care. It was that they cared so much, so loudly, that he felt like he was no longer in control of his own life. The truth is, once you fully open that door, it's hard to close it. Even with the kindest family, boundaries blur, and in some cases, people who were never very involved suddenly show interest, not in you, but in your assets. That cousin who never called, now they want to visit. The grandchild who never remembered your birthday, suddenly asking about your will. I'm not saying you shouldn't plan ahead, you should. It's wise to have a will, a durable power of attorney, and a trusted person to handle things if you can't. But sharing the full picture prematurely, before it's necessary, can create pressure you didn't ask for. Suddenly, you're no longer trusted to make your own decisions. They are being made with you, or worse, for you. Privacy is not secrecy, it's protection. You don't owe anyone your bank statements. You don't need to explain why you bought a new TV or donated to a cause you care about. Your money is yours. It's the result of decades of hard work, of sacrifices no one else may even know about. And the person most qualified to decide how it should be spent or saved is you. Protect your peace. Share only what needs to be shared when the time is right, and with people who genuinely respect your boundaries. Because once your finances become a topic of family discussion, you might find yourself defending decisions that no one else should be judging in the first place. Now, let's talk about something that feels so natural to share: our health. After all, our bodies aren't what they used to be. The knees creak a little more than before, sleep isn't always restful, and some days we just don't feel like ourselves. It's normal, and when you love your family, it's only human to want to share those experiences with them. We think, they care about me, they'll want to know, and often they do. But here's the part we rarely consider: how that information gets processed on the other side. See, when we casually mention, "My back's been acting up again," or "I felt dizzy the other morning," it may feel like just small talk to us, but to your children or grandchildren, those words carry weight. They love you, and because they love you, they may overreact, not intentionally, but emotionally. What you see as a passing moment of discomfort, they hear as a red flag, and from that moment on, they may begin seeing you differently. Let me tell you about Claire. She's 76, widowed for a few years now, and still fiercely independent. She loves gardening, volunteers at the local library, and walks her little terrier around the neighborhood every morning. One day, after a full weekend of yard work, she mentioned to her daughter over coffee that her shoulders were sore. Just that, no complaints, just a little soreness. Her daughter's response: she panicked. She booked her a physical therapy appointment, started calling twice a day to check in, and even suggested hiring someone to help around the house. Claire was taken aback. She appreciated the love, sure, but she also felt handled, like she'd suddenly become fragile. Over time, her daughter started making comments like, "Are you sure you should be lifting that?" Or, "Maybe you shouldn't drive at night anymore." And Claire, who had always taken pride in her independence, began to feel like a child in her own life, all because of one offhand comment about sore shoulders. This is the subtle danger of oversharing health details, especially the small, non-urgent ones. You're not doing anything wrong by mentioning them, but you may be unintentionally shifting how your family sees you, from strong and capable to someone they need to protect or manage. That shift, once it starts, is hard to reverse. Now, don't get me wrong. If something serious is going on, if there's a diagnosis, a condition that affects your daily life, something that requires real support, of course you should share it. Your family should know. You deserve their help when it truly matters. But every little twinge, every stiff joint, every sleepless night, you don't need to broadcast it. Think of it this way: sharing everything can sometimes create a narrative that doesn't reflect who you are. You might feel mostly fine, but your loved ones might begin to see you as declining faster than you are. That can lead to them making decisions for you, limiting your freedom, or just hovering a little too much. And that, over time, can be exhausting. Not just for you, but for your relationships. You've lived in your body long enough to know what's serious and what isn't. You know when something's just part of aging and when it's a real concern. Trust that knowledge, and trust that you don't need to validate every cough or cramp with someone else's opinion. There's another angle to this too: your emotional space. Constantly talking about small health issues can start to make you feel like your life is shrinking, that everything is about what's wrong, what hurts, what's wearing down. And that's not the story you want to tell. You are more than your aches and pains. You are a full person with wisdom, joy, routines, hobbies, and quiet victories every day. Don't let the little discomforts dominate your narrative. I'm not saying you should suffer in silence or bottle things up. Not at all. Talk to your doctor. Keep track of symptoms. Take care of yourself with intention and awareness. But when it comes to family, be thoughtful. Choose when and how you share. And ask yourself, am I sharing to feel closer, or am I unintentionally giving away my independence? Because here's the truth. Peace in your later years doesn't come from having everyone worry about you. It comes from knowing yourself well enough to decide what matters and when to speak. That's not denial. That's dignity. Now, let's talk about something many of us have learned the hard way: getting involved in family conflicts. At this age, we've seen our fair share of arguments. We've watched children grow apart, siblings fight over money, in-laws misunderstand each other, and old grudges resurface over things we thought were long buried. And as the older generation, we often feel this tug to step in, to help, to offer advice, to smooth things over. But here's a lesson that comes only with experience. The more you say, the more risk you take, especially in family matters. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I'll give you a real example. Miriam, an old friend of mine from a walking group, told me about a moment she wishes she could take back. She's 80 now, sharp as ever, and the kind of woman whose opinion people naturally seek out. One afternoon, during a visit with her daughter, she mentioned, in the gentlest way, that maybe her grandson, who was 5 at the time, could start helping tidy up his toys. That was it. No lecture, no raised voice, just a soft suggestion. But her daughter didn't take it that way. She grew quiet, a little cold. The calls came less often. Invitations stopped. Miriam, who had only meant to help, was left wondering how one sentence could cause such distance. And unfortunately, that rift never fully healed. That's the danger of sharing your real opinions in the middle of family conflict, or even in the most innocent-seeming situations. Because no matter how gently you say something, people hear through the filter of their own emotions. Your words might feel like support to you, but to them it might feel like judgment, criticism, or taking sides. You try to help 2 adult children settle a disagreement, and suddenly both feel you're playing favorites. You express concern about your daughter-in-law's parenting, and your son pulls away. You mention that one family member seems to always borrow money but never repay, and just like that, you become the one who stirs the pot. Even if your words are spoken with love, people remember them, sometimes more than they remember the original issue itself. You could be trying to calm things down, but end up being the one they resent most when the dust settles. Why? Because once you speak up, they associate you with the conflict, not the resolution. And over time, that can leave you isolated. So what should you do instead? Here's the truth I've come to live by. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to share your opinion just because you have one. You can love your family deeply without inserting yourself into every disagreement. You can be present without being pulled in. Sometimes the most powerful words you can say are, "I trust you to work it out," or simply, "I don't want to take sides, but I'm here if you need me." And then, let go. Let them grow. Let them stumble. Let them learn the way you did by figuring it out themselves. Because you see, involvement might feel helpful in the moment, but in the long run, it rarely brings peace. What brings peace is protecting your own emotional well-being, being the calm eye of the storm, being the quiet, steady presence that doesn't react to every wave. And that doesn't mean you're uncaring. It means you've grown enough to know that not all battles need your participation. Your role now, more than ever, is to keep your heart steady. Not just for them, but for you. You've seen what happens when people speak without thinking, when well-meaning advice turns into long-term wounds, and you've earned the right to step back, to watch, to hope, to pray, maybe, but not to be dragged into every fire. Because let's be honest, in this stage of life, peace is too precious. You've earned your wisdom. You've lived through enough family holidays, heated discussions, and misunderstood conversations to know. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stay silent. Let them figure it out. And love them from a gentle distance. Now let's talk about something much quieter than drama, but often heavier than any argument. Our regrets. At this stage in life, we've all got them. Even the most content and accomplished people carry a few what-ifs and "I wish I had's." It's part of the human experience. You think about the opportunities you didn't take, the places you didn't go, the moments that slipped through your fingers. And sometimes, those memories start to surface in conversations with our children, with our grandchildren, or even just in passing remarks over coffee. But here's something I've come to believe. Not every regret needs to be spoken aloud, especially not in front of the people you love. Let me tell you about Norma. She's 79, a retired school teacher who raised 4 children while supporting her husband through years of illness. One afternoon, during a quiet walk with her youngest daughter, she sighed and said, "Sometimes I wish I hadn't let go of my dream to travel when I was young." It wasn't meant to hurt, it was just a thought, a flicker of reflection. But her daughter took it hard. Later, she admitted it made her feel like her mother's sacrifices hadn't been worth it, that somehow she and her siblings had held her back, that maybe their life, the family they had, wasn't enough. That's the tricky thing about regrets. What feels like honest reflection to us can feel like rejection to others. We're trying to share something deeply personal, maybe even as a life lesson, but our loved ones often hear it through a different lens. When you say, "I wish I had worked longer," they may hear, "You weren't enough." When you say, "I should have moved to a different town," they may feel you were never truly happy where they were raised. You're trying to express your humanity, but it's easy for others to take it personally, even if you never intended that. There's another side to this too. The more we speak about our regrets, the more people begin to see us as someone stuck in the past, rather than someone still living in the present. It might make them pull back, thinking you're always looking backward instead of enjoying today. They might treat you more delicately, as if your best days are behind you, even when you don't feel that way at all. Now, don't misunderstand me. Your feelings are valid. Your regrets are real. You've lived a full life, and you've earned the right to reflect on it honestly. But some of those reflections are better kept close to the heart, not because they're shameful, but because they're sacred. Because sharing them too freely can accidentally hurt the very people you love the most. So instead of saying, "I wish I had done things differently," consider saying, "I've learned a lot from the life I've lived." That one shift in language carries wisdom without sorrow. It shows growth without guilt. It honors your story without placing a burden on someone else's shoulders. This isn't about pretending the past was perfect. It's about choosing to frame your journey in a way that brings peace, both to you and to those who care about you. You don't have to hide your emotions. You don't have to fake cheerfulness, but you do have the right to protect the emotional space between you and your family. And remember, peace in your later years doesn't come from rewriting the past. It comes from making peace with it, quietly, privately, with grace. Now, let's talk about the 5th and final secret, one that many people believe they should share for the sake of fairness or clarity: your plans for your assets. We've all heard the advice, haven't we? Don't leave your family guessing. Make sure everyone knows what to expect. And there's some truth in that, up to a point. Having a legal plan in place, making a clear will, and choosing someone you trust to manage your affairs is important. Absolutely. But here's the piece of wisdom that isn't talked about enough. The details of what you plan to leave behind, who gets what, and how your estate will be divided. Those are things that can do more harm than good when shared too early or too openly. Let me tell you about Edna. She's 83, a retired nurse who spent her life saving, budgeting, and investing wisely. She's generous, thoughtful, and deeply loyal to her 3 adult children. Wanting to avoid confusion, Edna decided to tell each of them exactly what she was planning: how the house would be sold, how the accounts would be divided, even which heirlooms would go to whom. At first, it seemed like the right move, but within weeks, things began to shift. Her middle son, who had always been easygoing, suddenly started calling more often, offering opinions about how the house could be sold now while the market was still good. Her daughter, who had moved out of state, questioned why she wasn't getting the same percentage as her siblings, since she had sacrificed so much by leaving home. And the youngest, He became distant, clearly uncomfortable with the whole conversation, but hurt all the same. What started as a thoughtful effort to be transparent turned into a storm of subtle competition, hurt feelings, and quiet resentment. And here's what Edna told me, word for word. I felt like they started seeing the inheritance, not their mother. That's the hidden cost of sharing detailed plans about your assets, even when your heart is in the right place. It can quietly invite expectations, comparisons, and even resentment. You might think you're bringing clarity and preventing problems, but often it opens the door to unspoken judgments, subtle tension, and questions that can change how your choices are viewed. Once people know what you're planning to leave behind, they may start seeing your life decisions through a different lens. Why are you still in that house if you're going to sell it anyway? Do you really need to take that cruise? Wouldn't it be better to save that for the grandkids? Sometimes it's not what they say. It's how they look at you, the hesitation in their voice, the way their tone shifts, and slowly that quiet pressure starts chipping away at something sacred, your freedom to fully enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. Now, let's be clear. Yes, you still need a proper estate plan. You need a will, a power of attorney, someone you trust to carry out your wishes. That's just being responsible. But having those things in place doesn't mean your retirement years should feel like you're reporting to a boardroom. You don't owe anyone a detailed play-by-play of your financial life. You're not writing a rough draft of your will for feedback. What you choose to give or not give is up to you. And that decision doesn't need explanation. Because at this stage, peace doesn't come from giving more. It comes from living freely. And your legacy, it's not just about money. It's in your kindness, your stories, your strength, and the love you've quietly shared over the years. If you allow that to be what defines your presence, not just the contents of your bank account, and if someone only shows up when money is the topic, well, that's a moment for reflect. That's what your family will carry forward. If you allow that to be what defines your presence, not just the contents of your bank account, and if someone only shows up when money is the topic, well, that's a moment for reflection. Are they seeing you, or just what you might leave behind? Choosing to protect your plans isn't selfish. It's wise. It's respectful to yourself and to your journey. It means you can spend your later years without the weight of pressure, without the whispers of judgment, without your choices becoming family debate points. So let me leave you with this. You've spent a lifetime giving your energy, your support, your wisdom, your love. Now, it's time to guard something else, your peace. At this age, peace isn't optional. It's essential. A calm home. A free mind. The right to move through your days without feeling like you're being measured or second-guessed. And sometimes, protecting that peace doesn't mean building walls. It just means knowing what to hold close, not because it's a secret, but because it's sacred. So ask yourself, which truths bring connection when shared, and which truths protect your peace when kept quietly to yourself? If this message speaks to you, share in the comments. What's one thing you're choosing to keep just for you? Your words might give clarity to someone else walking the same path. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Join this thoughtful, growing space where seniors support each other in living wisely and peacefully, one choice at a time. Thank you for being here. Until we meet again, take care of your heart. Take care of your peace. And always remember, you've earned it.